Hello everyone, welcome to the second video of our Introduction to Financial Management, which is on an overview of the financial management. So what is a responsibility of a financial staff? So it involves forecasting and planning. The financial staff must coordinate the planning process. This means they must interact with people from other departments as they look ahead and lay the plans that will shape the firm's future. Secondly, major investments and financing decisions. A successful firm usually has rapid growth in sales, which requires investments in plant, equipment, and inventory. Financial staff must help determine the optimal sales growth, help decide what specific assets to acquire, and then choose the best to finance those assets. So it involves a lot of analysis on what major things to buy, when, and how it will be procured. Third is coordination and control. The financial staff must interact with other personnel to ensure that the firm is operated as efficiently as possible. All business decisions have financial implications, and all managers need to take this into account. Therefore, it is the role of the financial staff to ensure that there is coordination and control across all departments. Because, for example, marketing decisions would affect sales growth. Therefore, the financial staff should have coordination with the marketing department to know what their actions would be, how it would affect the bottom line of the company, and other factors that the financial staff could do to intervene, such as to check the availability of funds, inventory policies, and of course, like in the second one, major investments that may be needed. Fourth one, dealing with the financial markets. The financial staff would deal with the money and capital markets. This would be further discussed in the later topics. As to risk management, it is to be noted that all businesses will have to face risks. This would include natural disasters such as fires and floods, and of course, uncertainty in commodity and security markets, volatility in interest rates, and the fluctuation of foreign exchange rates. However, please note that the risk can be reduced by purchasing insurance or by hedging in all derivative markets. It is therefore the financial staff's responsibility to ensure that the firm's overall risk management program is in place. This would include identifying the risk that would be managed and how it would be managed in the most efficient manner as possible. Next one. What are the goals of the corporation? First, it involves stockholders' wealth maximization. The primary goal of management decisions considers the risk and timing associated with expected earnings per share in order to maximize the firm's common stocks. Note that stockholders own the firm and elect the board of directors, which then selects the management team. Management in turn is supposed to operate in the best interest of the stockholders. And we know, however, that because the stock of most large firms is widely held, managers of large corporations have a great deal of autonomy. This being the case, might not managers pursue goals other than the stock price maximization? So that's one thing you have to think about. It is almost impossible to determine whether a particular management team is trying to maximize shareholder wealth or just merely attempting to keep stockholders satisfied while managers pursue other goals. With this in mind and with these questions that are running through our minds right now, it would be very impossible for us to give definitive answers to these type of questions. However, we do know that the managers of a firm operating in a competitive market will be forced to undertake actions that are reasonably consistent with shareholder wealth maximization. Because if they depart from that goal, they run the risk of being removed from their jobs. So technically, they would do their best to ensure that the stockholders' wealth would be maximized. Second one would be the social responsibility. Social responsibility is the concept that business should be actively concerned with the welfare of society at large. So, aside from ensuring that the proper normal profits and returns of rates of investments are secure, they must also ensure that the prices is reasonable enough to the outside stakeholders such as the buyers. A socially responsible firm will not be able to compete and it will be forced to abandon its efforts. So there is an issue with having social responsibility and stockholder wealth maximization. Therefore, there must be a complete balance between the two, because if we focus deeply on social responsibility, we may forget the goal of maximizing stockholders' wealth, because there are a lot of things that are to be considered when implementing corporate social responsibility. That includes but not limited to, for example, if your what do you call this? Your business is with a resort. What is your social responsibility of that? Your social responsibility is to ensure that the resort that you're actually working with will not have detrimental effects to the natural environment where that resort is being set place. You will not be able to disturb the natural ecosystem around the place, or you will not be able to disturb the natives that are possibly residing in that land. Okay. Third one would be stock price maximization and social welfare. So if a firm attempts to maximize its stock price, will this be good or would this be bad for society? In general, that would be good. Aside from such illegal actions as attempting to form monopolies or violating safety codes and failing to meet pollution control requirements, the same actions that maximizes stock prices also benefit society. So the next one would be what happens when managers maximize the size of their firms. So first, it would increase their job security and therefore hostile takeover would be less likely. Remember in the first video that I said hostile takeover usually takes place when the value of the firm is way below the normal levels already and outside stakeholders would be ready to buy and dive at that price. Second one is they would be able to increase their own power, status, and salaries, of course. And lastly, it would create opportunities for their lower and mid-level managers. So the last thing that I will discuss in this video is the mechanisms used to motivate managers to act in shareholders' best interest. So this would actually involve four things. First is managerial compensation. When we say managerial compensation, obviously, it refers to the compensation received by managers. Therefore, the structure of the compensation package would be able to add and should be designed to meet two primary objectives in this matter. First is to attract and retain able managers, and second one to align managers' actions as closely as possible with the interests of stockholders who are primarily interested in stock price maximization. So for different companies, they would have different compensation practices. But usually, a typical senior executive's compensation is structured in three parts. First, a specified annual salary, which is necessary to meet living expenses. Second one, a bonus paid at the end of the year, which depends on the company's profitability during the year. And third would be options to buy stock or actual shares of stock, which reward the executive for long-term performance. But then again, like what I said, each and every companies follow different compensation practices, and what I've said earlier is only a general structure. So, managers will be more likely to focus on maximizing stock prices if they themselves become large stockholders, because at some point in time, they will be given the options to buy stock or actual shares of stock. They would have a seat in the shareholders meeting and of course receive dividends. Second one is direct intervention by shareholders. So please note that usually stock in the old days, previously stocks are owned by individuals, but today the majority would be owned by institutional investors such as insurance companies, pension funds, and mutual funds, and all other mother companies and related companies. Therefore, the institutional money managers have the clout, if they choose to use it, to exercise considerable influence over most firms' operations. The third one is the threat of firing. So, of course, the probability of a firm's management being ousted by its stockholders was so remote in the early decades, but therefore posing a little threat only. But this type of scenario changed over time, and because of so many financial financial developments over the past 3 decades, stockholders or the management itself usually use this threat of firing to ensure that those that are in the position to control, forecast, and all other things would not do anything to make themselves get fired. And lastly, the last resort to which they use as a motivation for managers to act in shareholders' best interest is the threat of takeovers. So remember, when there is hostile takeovers, usually the management that took the new management that will take over would usually oust or remove the previous managers that were set forth in that company. So, because relatively, they think that the reason why the value of the company went down, was because of poor management. So that's one thing that managers usually prevent from happening. And like what a usual company president would say, I mean, if you want to keep your job, don't let your stock sell at a bargain price. So that's it. I think this is only a reminder. Again, this is still the introduction, so please expect more of an analysis type of discussion in the later part of this course. So I hope that you will be able to read the assignment that I will be giving you for this week, that is due next week. Please take it seriously and answer it seriously, as I will also be considering seriously reading, and I might be able to get the lowest possible score that I would give would be a 50 over 100. So please take note, okay? So that's it, and thank you.